Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. If you're celebrating today, I hope that it's a good day for you. On my channel today, we are going to do a storytelling episode focusing on all of the eclipse stories that you guys sent in using the hashtag grabbed or emailed us, grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. For those of you who are new to my channel who've never seen a grabbed episode before, what I do in these episodes are I aggregate all of the stories that you have shared using the hashtag grab, which we use on this channel, and I put them together in a storytelling episode. And it's good for a few reasons. One, when you get to see the astrology illustrated very vividly in the lives of different people, it helps to get out of your own drama with the planets, you know what I mean, which we all have, and to see how they're working in the lives of other people. If you're trying to study and learn astrology, there's no better way. Reading for people is similar in that you get to see and hear people's stories and lived experiences with the planets, and that develops your understanding of the planetary combinations more than anything else. So on one hand, we're doing episodes like this so that we can learn astrology. But I think the deeper spiritual reason comes from the name of the series. The word graha in ancient Indian astrology means grabber, or to grab or seize. The word can also mean to grasp. When we live lives that include a conscious reflection upon the nature of the planetary archetypes, weaving our lives together and appearing in the most small and insignificant and funny ways to the most tragic and deeply meaningful and difficult ways, we live a life that is full of grasping our participation in this beautiful divine universe. When we don't have that perspective, and it's not that the perspective only comes through astrology, the perspective could be developed in so many different ways, but when we don't have that perspective, it is as though the forces of the universe feel like objectifying mechanical laws that are just grabbing and pulling us along, and it feels very mechanistic. So the difference between living in an ensouled cosmos and a mechanistic one is in our consciousness. It's the kind of consciousness that we cultivate. Astrology is one language that can help us cultivate that kind of connection that makes the cosmos alive and luminous. So that's why we share your stories once in a while. That's why I love sitting with clients every day and talking to students, because when you hear the stories of the planets in people's lives and how they are grabbing us, but how we're also grasping and understanding their lessons or the larger universe that we're in. Either way, it can be life changing, and it can just remind you it's all good. Breathe, trust. This path is sacred, no matter what's happening. And for me, hearing other people's stories about the planets always brings me back to that space. So that's why we do these episodes once in a while. And I try to pick stories that are funny and tragic and poignant and bizarre, and then sum it up at the end with some reminders of why we're doing this. So these are some of my favorite episodes. They take a lot longer to compile because I have to read through hundreds and kind of find the stories that I want to weave together in just the right way. And so I don't do them all that often, maybe once every other month or something like that. I'll put one together. And I think it's a good day to do it on Thanksgiving because, I don't know, when it comes to visiting family or maybe not having family to visit or functional family to visit with, I think this day can be triggering for people. And so why not shift the focus from whatever customs or traditions or rituals are happening, at least for a little bit of time on this special day, to cosmic gratitude, which I think we can take this day to celebrate, regardless of whatever else is happening on this day, whether it's, positive, negative, stressful, or wonderful, So anyway, that is my prayer for you, is that you'll receive it in that spirit today, and it'll be something that's uplifting for you. Before we get into it, I want to remind everybody we are en route to trying to gather the support of 1,608 subscriber donations for the support of this YouTube channel in 2023. You can find the link to the Kickstarter in the description of this video or the comments section. I'm going to take you over to the Kickstarter page right now so you can see it. Right now, as I'm making this, we are at 231 backers. Our base financial goal is $150,000. This takes care of our staff for the year and basically just like all of the major operating expenses plus taxes and fees that come out from the Kickstarter and so forth. So if we reach that goal, we're kind of like at the minimum. If we reach our stretch goal, which is really the 1,608 backers, we think if we get that number of people, then we're going to be able to reach our big stretch goal for the year, which is to build a donation-based reading clinic. And what that's going to do is allow people through my website to have readings with some of my best graduates who are trying to gather experience, make a little money, but offer very affordable rates for people who otherwise would be priced out of top-notch astrology readings. And so it's always been my goal through my classes for, going on 13 years have always had very affordable rates available to people. And I've always wanted to try and make that possible for readings as well. So that's our goal this year. When you support the channel, you're supporting a team of people. You're obviously supporting me and my family in the production of all this content. You're also supporting the development of a donation-based reading clinic in the year ahead. Last year, you guys helped us build a community herbal medicine garden, which we will be making tons of medicines and giving away to people for free, which is just incredible that you guys helped build that. If you watch the video, you can see what it looks like and see what you guys helped build last year. So anyway, when you donate, you can also choose a reward. There's exclusive lectures and readings, and that I don't give anywhere else. There's a year ahead horoscope reading for your sun or rising sign that will tell you all of the major transits of 2023. There's some personalized birth chart readings, horary readings, and then probably the best thing that I have, all of my online courses, Roots and Spheres, the 2023 Masterclass series, my first and second year programs, my horary program, my craft-based workshop called Readings and Passages. All of those programs are over 50% off, and it gets even cheaper if you bundle 2 or more of them together. So I can't thank you all enough. Those of you who donated last year, you made this year a success. We really need to get to 1,608 backers. So if you are able to, anything and everything helps. If you're not financially able to, send up a prayer that we would be successful in meeting our goals so we can accomplish some really cool things and provide even better service in the year ahead. All right. Well, I'm really excited on that note to turn to the stories that you guys have sent in. So these are all eclipse stories. I focused primarily on just, let's hear your Scorpio and Taurus eclipses. We had a solar eclipse in Scorpio on October 25th, and then a lunar eclipse on November 8th. These are the stories that you guys sent in. And at the end, I'm going to just offer some reflections on these beautiful stories that you guys had to share. Hope you'll enjoy them, learn something good along the way. All right. So these are all eclipse stories. And these are all on the day of the eclipse or just like a day after or the day before, something like that. So I won't go too much into the timing on most of them, but they're right on the eclipse. I was working from home and on a whim began to idly browse job postings. A couple of hours later, I had an appointment with my therapist and found myself admitting how frustrated I was feeling about my career recently, because although it's been going quite well and I'm good at it, I had very little passion for it. I've been at my current job for 2 years and have been hanging on because my fantastic team and manager who treats me very well, a rare occurrence in my career. Well, immediately following my appointment with my therapist, the CEO of my company announced that due to not meeting our projected revenue goals, the company would be immediately laying off 10% of the workforce. I'd be lying if I said a large part of me wasn't secretly hoping to be laid off and set free to pursue other passions. As the day wore on and entire groups of people were let go, it seemed that would not be the case. As a graphic designer at a biotech company, I have a fairly specialized role. So by the end of the day, the other designers and I felt that we were all pretty much in the clear. That is until Monday evening when a notorious office gossip messaged my entire team to express her condolences that we all had been let go, although none of us had been told as much yet. We tried to write it off as an unfounded rumor, but alarm bells were beginning to go off. And sure enough, the next morning, the morning of the eclipse, it was announced that me and most of my team were indeed being let go. What a roller coaster. And that person had the eclipse in their career house. Wow, that is definitely an eclipse in the career house. That's just like right on target for what you might expect, unfortunately, but also sounds like maybe fortunately for you. Here is one that was more challenging around the topic of children. Last night, this is lunar eclipse in Taurus. Last night, my 5-year-old daughter had to go to the ER because her breathing seemed very labored. She was diagnosed with pneumonia and RSV, and it progressively got worse as the eclipse peaked, and they had to admit her to the children's hospital. We are hoping she can come home soon. That was very scary. It does sound like she's doing better now. So, wow. That'll do it, right? An eclipse, especially the lunar eclipses, they tend to be a little harder on the body. If you have that land in the house of children, that's a scary thing. I'm glad that you guys got through it. This one's interesting. I've been working at a farmer's market for a local farmer recently. Yesterday, exactly as the eclipse started, And I believe that, yeah, this is in the this is connected to the career house. I've been working at a farmer's market for a local farmer. Yesterday, exactly as the eclipse started, he asked me if I could start working with the cattle in the cattle yards. So literally in the sign of the bull, totally unexpected, completely different from anything I've done before. So quite literally being sent to work with the cows when the lunar eclipse and the sign of the bull came through. That's impressive. This one's interesting, a little bit longer, but I wanted to tell this one. 9 years ago, my father died suddenly. I didn't know it at the time, but this was 2 days after a solar eclipse in Scorpio. He was a Scorpio sun, conjunct Saturn, the ruler of my fourth. Death of a solar figure. 8 years later, my older brother died of a drug overdose at age 59, 2 days before a lunar eclipse in Taurus, in my 8th house and his 12th. So the Scorpio-Taurus axis is home to my nodes and natal fallen moon in Scorpio. Over the past 9 years, there's been much debate between the 3 remaining family members, mom, me, and my twin brother, about what to do with dad's and now my older brother's ashes. My father and brother were not churchgoers in the end. No one really wanted to put them in a columbarium. My father flew naval planes off aircraft carriers in his youth. My brother was a boat captain. They both fished and spent their lives on the waters of Mobile Bay. This summer, Mom announced her readiness to release the ashes, and we all felt the water was the best place for them. My twin brother suggested a lake up the rivers and delta of Mobile Bay, a place known as America's Amazon. In 1935, my grandfather went fishing with his friends. He did not know how to swim, and he did not tell anyone. In this lake, one of his friends jokingly pulled him into the water, and he never came back up. They found his body a few days later. He left a widow and a 6-month-old son, my father, behind. Well, that makes sense for your father having that son Saturn. That's really sad. Releasing the ashes of his namesake, a son and grandson, in the dark waters of a lake where he passed, and in the beauty of wildlife, felt right. We traveled in my twin brother's boat on a sunny 80-degree day, Veterans Day, to this place. My father's memorial service was on Veterans Day 9 years prior, and the day was symbolic to us. As a pelican soared above and the ancient dwarf cypresses witnessed, my mother read from a 1928 prayer book. We released the ashes of my father and brother into the dark waters they so loved. The 3 of us stood there in the wild, survivors of 2 humans that caused a lot of grief and division between us, and we released them with love. We made our way back, accompanied by the pelican for a bit, and reflected on that ancient dwarf cypress, wondering what it witnessed in 1935. An hour later, we docked at a local place to eat and told stories and laughed, and somehow I felt close to my twin again and lighter. We hugged in the real way siblings do. This was 3 days after the lunar eclipse in Taurus and 2 weeks following the solar eclipse in Scorpio, the same set of eclipses under which my father and brother died. I can't help but think about Venus working so hard in the deep, dark waters of Scorpio to bring unity back. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful story. Yeah, it really got me. My eclipse cycle, this is another one. My eclipse cycle is Taurus in the ninth house. And a friend wrote to me on the day of the eclipse saying she returned from a foreign country, Italy, and had a gift from me. So my eclipse in the 9th house, foreign lands bringing me a gift. So simple, but so sweet. I'm a Sagittarius rising, so the lunar eclipse hit my 6th house with the sun in my 12th. As a longtime worshiper of the moon, I sat outside under her late into the night on Monday. I was feeling frustrated with my life in some ways, and so with inspired passion, I spoke my grievances to the moon shining in the clear sky above me, and also prayed to her out loud for more desirable circumstances in the future. Then I glanced eastward just in time to see a shooting star with a reddish glow cross the sky. I took this as a sign my messages had been received. I went to bed and dreamed I was being tossed around in the sea and then rescued, held lovingly in a beam of moonlight that surrounded me, warmed me, and scooped me from the water. There was a feeling of sublime softness, peace, and divine bliss all through my body as the moonbeam soothed and lifted me to safety. It was a profound state of being I've never experienced before, an elevated emotion of some kind. I awoke, and from the window beside my bed I saw the full moon shining right at me. An hour later, the eclipse began. When I woke up, I had a jarring headache and a nose that wouldn't stop running, and by early afternoon, I was vomiting and very weak. It was a strange illness, not a cold or flu or COVID. It was more likely a violent detox. how I've sometimes felt after drinking too much or doing ecstasy when I was much younger, and my body would violently rebel and purge the next day. I went to bed and stayed there until the next morning and awoke feeling totally fine, blissful even, in a deep state of peace and grateful for my communion with the moon. What a powerful story, especially in the sixth house, with the sixth house eclipse, a place that was associated with illness, the joy of Mars, sometimes associated with fevers too. That's incredible. What can you say? This was an eclipse happening in the third house, and this person was relating this to a shift of mind that they had. The day of the eclipse in my third house, I was speaking to a dear mentor of mine, and he introduced this idea to me of walking in beauty. He pointed out that very rarely do we allow ourselves to slow down enough to truly feel the heart-aching beauty of the world. As he was speaking, I felt myself drifting into my mind and realizing that I used to live this way of beauty. However, due to the busyness of my life and the fact that I don't usually let myself have a moment because I'm always scrolling through social media, filling up every moment with information intake, a sudden and deep realization came over me. I've been asleep to the world and keeping it at arm's length, using my phone as a barrier to actual life. In that moment, I told my friend, sorry to interrupt you, and I shared my realization. Then, without hesitating, I deleted all the social media off my phone. If I need to connect, I will have to make the effort of going to a computer instead. It was such a decisive lightning bolt Uranian moment. This is a lunar eclipse in her third house with Uranus. I'm starting to feel the beauty of experience come back and seep back into my life. That's beautiful. Now, this person had an eclipse in their career house and was scared that they might lose their job. And they said, I was worried I might lose my job, or maybe I would get promoted. Either option would be possible, but I got totally sidelined when my director advised me he was leaving and going overseas. That was not expected, which makes sense with Uranus at the heart of that eclipse. It was a Uranian eclipse. You didn't get fired or promoted. Your boss left to another country. Eclipse in the third house of siblings. I learned last night that my youngest sister is going to divorce her husband. I've been divorced before, and I expect I'll be supporting her through this awful process, as I know karmically how difficult things are about to become for her and her son. Fortunately, I recently moved cross-country to be closer to my parents, and she lives close by. Isn't that amazing? There's an eclipse in the house of siblings just after you've moved closer to your sibling, and a relationship is ending, and maybe you'll be there to be a part of her life in some helpful way. That's beautiful. It's beautiful that the stars would bear witness to such a thing. This one says, warning, it's kind of gross. So the eclipse was on the natal moon in Scorpio in the 12th house. A mysterious illness has come over me the last 10 days or so. I'm thinking it might be a parasite causing extreme physical purging, if you know what I mean. Ha! It is not pretty. Scorpio ruling the bowels and the south node being on my moon. Not knowing what it is yet, and the eclipse is the trigger. You cannot make this stuff up. Yeah. Well, I hope you get the bug out of your butt, I'm just playing. I really do hope that you're okay. That sounds gross, but cosmic. Oh, man. This one is what I think that is so interesting here. This is a series of events that happened for this woman, who is a client of mine, who wrote in, was kind enough to share her story. And this series of events happened when the eclipse in Scorpio happened to land exactly on her natal Uranus in Scorpio. So you can imagine this is the world's most Uranian eclipse because you got the eclipse hitting your natal Uranus. My mom calls me, wakes me up screaming that my cousin Natalie has died. We grew up like sisters, but she took a different road in life and she died in jail today. It totally shocked me. I dropped the phone. So then on the day of the eclipse, on the same day of the eclipse, a doctor called me talking about a mass that they found in my breast and wants me to see a surgeon. I'm totally shocked and scared. And I had a biopsy a week before this, but still not knowing if it's cancer. Now they want me to see a surgeon. 2 days later, daughter pregnant, not due until later this month, comes over not feeling good, starts having contractions. So me and my son take her to the hospital. I think they're going to send her home now, mind you. We only made it to a triage. She turns around and says, I feel something. She put her hand between her legs and she feels the baby's head. We've not been there 5 minutes. I scream for a doctor to check her. She's dilated fully. My son freaked. They did code red. They didn't have time to get to a birthing room. Total freaking chaos the next 10 minutes. That room was small with about 20 people in it, and it all happened so fast and unexpected. My son bailed after he saw that bloody mess. He ran out of the room. I'm sorry. That's not cool, but oh my God, he ran out of the room. Jeez. Boy, I'm sorry. It's it's just life. So it was so intense, but the outcome was a beautiful 7-pound baby boy. And the next day, the surgeon office called to set up appointment, advised that it was not cancer, but a cyst mass I still need surgery to have removed. This eclipse kicked my ass. And then she writes, I hope it matches what you're looking for. Yeah, that'll do. Oh my God, that is so intense. I mean, like, wow. First of all, I'm really sorry for the loss of your cousin. That part, I just can't. I'm sure that, like, wow. I mean, how do you even start grieving that when you're in the process of everything else? And the last part with your son got me laughing a little bit, but I don't at all mean to laugh about the passing of your cousin. I really hope that you're feeling okay. Okay, so this next one. In the 6th house, again, surgery, sickness, illness, sometimes a tough house. Day of the eclipse in the 6th house, I had my first ever mammogram scheduled. I was concerned because the eclipse is happening in my 6th house. I get to my appointment. I'm called back to the billing office. I'm told my insurance isn't going through. I cancel my appointment until I can get my insurance straightened out. I message my husband, who I've been separated from for 7 years. We're on good terms, and he's kept me on his insurance benefits. He told me that the insurance expired in January, and I was no longer able to be on his insurance. Well, I thought at least the eclipse didn't reveal a lump in my breast. I thought I got over pretty easy this eclipse considering, until yesterday morning when I was in my front yard doing some yard work with my dog Zeus. An industrial looking van drove by and my dog runs like lightning to chase it. I yelled after him, but he just kept running. I knew the angle he was running towards it wasn't going to be good. I witnessed the impact and Zeus's contorted body hobbling towards the curb. I picked him up and carried him to my front porch, frantically trying to find my car keys to take him to the emergency vet. I could tell by his breathing he was dying, so I decided to stay with him and lay my hands on him. God, that sucks. He went fast. I anticipated that with this eclipse happening, with the eclipse happening in my 6th house that my much older dog would pass, but the 6th house, by the way, is a place that's often associated with pets and animals. That this dog meant the world to me and gave me so much joy. I like to think with all his wild energy, he's now somewhere chasing the stars instead of cars. Thanks for listening. Yeah, so sorry. That had to have been just devastating. Whew. It's good to hear these things, though. It's good. It's soul food. I know it doesn't feel like it sometimes, but it is. Here's another one from the 6th house. This one's a little different, just to give you a feel for how different eclipses in the same exact house can be. 6th house associated with health and healing and service professions like surgery, medicine, doctors, social work, social service. The day before the eclipse in my 6th house, I began a new clinical rotation in urologic surgery. My days now involve examining patients and assisting in surgical cases, primarily for urologic oncology patients, i.e. patients with testicular and prostate cancers. The surgeries can be long and the days longer and are incredibly physically taxing in addition to being emotionally draining. Apart from caring for patients with challenging diagnoses, as a student, I am regularly put on the spot and, quote, pimped or asked questions about the disease, medical and surgical management, while also having my developing skills critiqued, usually in front of the entire surgical team. How fun! While I'm learning a lot and grateful for the experience, I leave in the morning before dawn, return home after sunset, and last night only found solace in a long hot bath with a large margarita in hand. It may not have been red wine, but my solar eclipse experience seems to be otherwise on point. with themes of sexual health, sixth house illness, service, very hard work featured prominently in my life at the moment. That sounds like a sixth house kind of season in life when you're just, sometimes working to the bone. And I'm glad to hear that you're taking care of yourself. I think it's really important when you're in a sixth house phase. It's sacrificial. It's the blood, sweat, and tears that you're pouring into something. You got to be good to yourself during those periods as well, so you don't, die on your own sword by mistake. I thought this one was interesting. With a connection to the second house of money and business, my boss asked if I wanted to sell prints of my botanical paintings in our company's store catalog. I didn't think I was good enough. And my partner became department manager and got a pretty decent raise. So second and eighth house were activated, and some shifts around money and business for both this person and their partner. That's fantastic. I mean, just a simple example, but poignant. And botanical prints with Taurus in the second, like, it makes so much sense. This one's kind of fun. I always like to try to find some kink here or there. So I like this person's talking about an eclipse that ends up landing on their midheaven, Scorpio eclipse on the midheaven. I like being dominated in bed and have for a while felt that this has the potential to harmonize with my mystical ambitions. I had an experience with a guy where I was overwhelmed and canceled the session, realizing that I have to take this more slowly, build trust. I also read a blog post that day by some guy basically describing the mental space a sub, that means a submissive, falls into as a mystical state of losing oneself. He characterized his aim as a dom to transport his sub into that space. This made me realize that I need to reevaluate the kind of sex I have, because there's lots of doms out there that simply want to use you as a sub. Nothing wrong with that, to have good kinky sex. I need a close connection with the person, though. Boundaries between me and others is a super prominent theme in my life. The Madonna/whore dualism is also a quite strong theme in my life. I periodically oscillate the two, don't feel like I've mastered either of them. Anyway, this whole process culminated with my brother calling me on the day of the lunar eclipse in my 10th house. He's organizing an event by a feminist collective where poetry about sex will be read, and asked me if I'd like to write a poem and share it there. One reason he told me is that he also wants to also have some aspects that are not so happily and bubbly, and my poems are generally a bit darker. So basically, the lunar eclipse with Venus in my 10th house, Venus in Scorpio, correlated with me going to share a poem about sex, submission, and dissolution of self to a public audience. Well, good luck. And I hope that you are setting the right boundaries and having the best kind of experience for that's healthy and supportive of your growth, and that you've established what those parameters are. This one is great. It was a mother looking at her 7-year-old son's birth chart and noticing a Scorpio eclipse in his 6th house, which, you could wonder, is he going to get sick? Is something difficult or kind of like challenging going to happen for him? And she says, eclipse in his 6th house. His teacher on the day of the eclipse, I guess, took away his Pokemon cards. Talk about his injured pride. So he has a eclipse in the 6th house, and on that day he gets in trouble because of his Pokemon cards. His teacher takes them away. That is definitely a misfortune. That is an unfortunate event if you're 7, for sure. Maybe any age. Well, this one is interesting. On the Scorpio eclipse, my brother, mother, and I are all Scorpio moons, but my brother is Scorpio rising as well as a Scorpio moon. The family has really been concerned about his drinking. He's very high functioning, but drinks with a worrying intensity. My aunt is visiting from abroad and is planning an intervention. I felt really torn as I was researching outpatient clinics, some really strong emotions doing all of this behind his back, and how much shame he might feel, so I called him to give him a heads up. I wanted him to feel like he has an ally in me and to sort of soften the blow and prepare him so he's not too defensive in the moment. I also expressed my concern, obviously. He's in denial and thinks we're overreacting. But that happened on the eclipse in Scorpio. Well, on behalf of all of us listening, we all hope that your brother is doing well and that intervention ended up being helpful. Yeah, it's really tough. Scorpio eclipse in the 5th house, a place associated with joy, pleasure, recreation, things that you do for fun. I'm having to face some truths about aging and what my body is capable of in the context of an activity that I'm addicted to, which is tennis. Realizing I've been pushing too hard and I'm currently sick and having to face that I have to slow down this process or it will break me. Also, watching all my younger tennis friends pass me up and what all of that means, it's a real frame tale for trying to have the courage to accept this reality of my changing body, my changing role, doors and activities possibly closing. It's humbling. That's tough. That's a hard transition when your body's just saying no. Especially it's something that you love, and now you're like trying to find something that you love to maybe be a new focus. Maybe that's part of what the eclipse is meaning, and we hope you find that, or that you're able to still include tennis to some extent, or find some way of being active and taking care of yourself and being safe at the same time. Here is someone who had the eclipse right on their ascendant in Scorpio. Out of the blue, I got a job offer for a position I actually accepted years ago and never actually thought would come through. Long story. It's for a much better salary level, prestige than my current job. However, it would require me moving across the country to a city where I know nobody, completely changing my lifestyle, and it would probably become a huge new part of my identity. Also, there are tons of themes of secrecy with this job. Wish I could share more. On paper, it sounds great, but I'm losing my mind over what to do. I love my life now and really don't want to change and wasn't even looking for a change in the first place. But I'd also think I'd be foolish to turn down this opportunity. I feel like a bomb just went off in my life. There's an eclipse on your ascendant. That'll do it. Who am I? What do I want to do? Here we have one who she's saying it was really interesting that the eclipse showed up in her life, not so much in her own life, but in people around her. Her boss announced that he's getting a divorce. And then a close friend called, this is on the day of the eclipse, boss announced that he's getting a divorce. Close friend called to say that her basement flooded. And so she had these things happen, not to her, but around her, boss and neighbor saying things, very reflective of the eclipse. And she thought that was interesting that nothing really happened with her, but these other people around her. Very fascinating. So this is the last one we'll share. This person, again, a fifth house eclipse. We saw one person not being able to do something that they loved, that they did for fun and pleasure any longer. This person said, I'm trying to have a little, things that were a little dry. And the Taurus eclipse was in my fifth house. And I'm trying to bring romance back into my life a little bit, spice things up. I was back on dating apps. And a younger man, 22 years younger, messaged me. I'm in my late 40s. And I was like, come on, I could be your mother. Anyway, I was not having it. So we ended our conversation. Literally 30 minutes later, I was like, why? Why not? Woo, you do it. So I changed my preference on my apps to include younger men. Literally, I'm overwhelmed by matches. I can't handle it. I've matched with over 30 younger men and conversing with at least 10 of them. I've already met up with 2 of them, and 1 for sure I'll see again. And I'd have plans to meet more. I feel drunk. I feel drunk, really, like I can't get enough. Uranus has struck. Never had I had any dating experience like this. I'm struggling to focus on the rest of my life and feel like I'm being pulled into the abyss of pleasure. I do not mind, let me tell you, but it feels a little out of control. I'm like, I like this ride. Now, how do I get back? How do I get off? I had saved the best for last. That was so funny. Oh my God. You go. You do it. So I hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Let's close with some reflections. I want to say some thank yous. These are thank yous to the stars that I say on behalf of everyone who shared stories, those that I read and those that I wasn't able to read, those of you who are listening who've never shared a story but have lived many. I am thankful for being let go from a job as the lights eclipse one another, a job I wanted to be let go from. I'm thankful that my child's sickness is held in the mysterious alignments of the night sky. I am thankful that the cattle live in the stars as well as the earth, that these ashes spread on the water are the ashes of so many star cycles, that the stars send me gifts from foreign countries. I'm thankful that my dreams and the sickness that I wake to in the morning are divine, that we are walking in beauty and the stars told me to turn my phone off. I'm thankful that my boss got taken overseas, not randomly, but by lights in the night. That my house of siblings is ringing with the heavenly bells of change and pain, and my sister is in need, and the stars have told me. That my bowels are being cleared by a scorpion in the moon. I am thankful that one soul leaves as a baby comes in, and life and death are just like the cycles in the sky. I'm thankful that my sweet dog Zeus is carried like a god by the gods to his next journey. That my rotation in the hospital, my exhaustion, being pimped by the surgical team, is shown by a fiery and exhausted eclipse. That my botanical prints are desired and seen by the heavens. That my sexuality and my submission as bliss is to be turned into art for some people in this world to see. That my Pokemon cards, my magic, I'm thankful, were taken by an ogre teacher wearing the mask of a scorpion moon. I'm thankful that speaking the truth to my brother about his drinking, even if he is in denial, was beheld and timed out by the planets. I'm thankful that my soul is honored by the planets, that I'm given a trophy by the planets, from the planets, even if my tennis game is declining. I'm thankful that my secret amazing job opportunity causing me to lose my mind is written in the stars. I am thankful that in the life of my boss and my friend, the scorpion stung, and only I knew that the stars were singing in the midst of it. And finally, I am thankful that the stars are giving me I am thankful that the stars are giving me permission to jump at least 30 young men in the next couple of months. That's what I've got for today, everyone. I hope you guys have a beautiful and blessed Thanksgiving, however you're celebrating it, and that we would extend this holiday into a greater and larger cosmic sense of gratitude, and that our appreciating capacity would expand as we keep studying and learning this language together in this beautiful community. I'm so grateful for all of you, and I hope you have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.